Hey everyone, it's Ollie from Matchup Games, and this is the first video in a series where I will be going through the whole development process in commercially releasing my first game in Unity. I don't have a set name for the game yet, but I will be doing an indie devlog series on making this game and try to include as much of the process as possible. For the purpose of conversation, I'll nickname it Siege, but it can easily change in the future. But first, what is the game about? Well, in short, it's a medieval fantasy tower defense game based in a dungeon, but you control the placement of enemies and have to fend off waves of heroes who are trying to kill the boss. To understand why this game, let's look back to April 2019. Ludum Dare Game Jam was happening, and I made the game Protect the Dungeon, a 2D game where you build rooms and place monsters in the rooms to fend off waves of heroes as they make their way to the boss room. And, to be honest, it wasn't great. There were many problems with it, and it wasn't the fully realised idea I had in my head. But I left it as it was, and didn't come back to it until now. So this game is the idea I had for Protect the Dungeon, but more fleshed out and actually good. Where I started was with the most basic thing, making the rooms of the level. I want the levels to be randomly generated, so what I set up was a very simple pathfinding from the start room to the end room. In the jam game Protect the Dungeon, you were able to control how many rooms you had when you could buy more rooms. But when it comes to a 3D space, this becomes a lot more difficult, and so I'm going to have all of the floor randomly generated and the player will have control over the enemies instead. The way this works is that from the start, the algorithm will check if the current position is on the same value of the X or Z axis as the end. If the position is on the same x-axis, then it will move one unit towards the end on the z-axis. If the position is on the same z-axis, then it will move one unit towards the end on the x-axis. If the position is on different values than the end on both axes, then it will randomly pick which axis on which to move towards the end. It will iterate through this until the end has been reached. This works as a quick mock-up of adding rooms, but it's more of a placeholder. In the future I will change this so that I can have more control over the number of rooms and add more functionality, such as more complex layouts with branches, locks and keys and mini-boss rooms. But for now, this will do. Once I had that down, I started making the wave of heroes. At first, it was designed for the heroes to move to the position of the next room iteratively until the end room is reached. But this isn't great, as it's way too rigid and doesn't allow the heroes to explore the rooms they go through. So throw that code in the bin, let's replace it with NavMesh. NavMesh is a Unity pathfinding thing that basically does all pathfinding for you. So I made all the heroes NavMesh agents and baked some navigation areas, and now the heroes move much better. I also made it possible to add enemies to rooms by dragging this UI button to a room, and when a hero comes across it, some combat starts until either the hero or enemy dies. Both heroes and enemies are inherited classes of a class called Entity, which has attributes like the Agent, attack speed, attack power, and others, and controls the combat system of each. The human class overrides the Entity method for acting idle by instead setting the Agent destination as the end room. The enemy class overrides the Entity method for acting idle by choosing a random destination within the room every X seconds. Later on I'll use this to further inherit and have different types of heroes and enemies. So now we have the heroes and the enemies, where you can place enemies and spawn heroes to test the combat. You can also rebuild the floor if you don't like it, though this is purely for testing. But for now I left that for next time, and instead I'm going to add some art. When I decided to make this into a full game, I had the idea of having a paper theme similar to Paper Mario. So I made the heroes and enemies be 2D sprites within a 3D space. I used the sprites from Protect the Dungeon for getting an idea of it, by only using the head and the body. But then I thought, why not just have that? So I made the player just a head and a body, and they'll hop around and hold weapons in their invisible arms. I also made some nice lighting and a texture on the floor with a stony normal map. I also made some basic camera controls, which took a lot longer than I thought it would, where you can move around, rotate the camera, and zoom in and out to make it a lot easier to explore and manage the whole dungeon and witness the action. I am still considering going for the paper arts and crafts look, but I may go for a toy look instead, like in Link's Awakening Remake, but that's still up for debate. But while the hero is 2D, I want to show you something I really like. You're probably noticing that when the player moves, their eyes move too. This is because the eyes of the player are a different sprite, and they change their local position depending on both its current rotation and the camera's rotation. I also made the hero's head a circular sprite mask, meaning that the hero's eyes are only visible within the hero's head. This fake perspective effect looks super cool, and I might implement it for different parts of the heroes and enemies too. And so that's where the game is at now. I don't have a defined release date, but I want to have a playable version of this game in a couple of months. Of course, that is not set in stone, so it can change, and it most likely will change. But the aim for this is to have a commercially released game out the door that is fully fleshed out and fully polished and balanced. And so these deadlines I set myself aren't definite, but they're more of an incentive for me to continue working. Nearly all the games I've made have been during game jams, and I've not quite experienced the real thing yet of developing and releasing a game. So I really want to have a game I can actually call my own that I've commercially released, whether that's on mobile or PC, or both. I'll be showing more of the dev process in future videos, hopefully once every 2 to 3 weeks, so if you've liked this video then please like and subscribe to the channel to keep updated. I also have my making of video on the GMTK Jam coming up sometime soon, and another game mechanics video, so look out for that too in the near future. I'll have a text channel or two on my Discord server dedicated to this game, so if you have any suggestions or anything then join the server and leave it there, or say it down in the comments section below. But for now, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching all the way through. This is Mashup Games signing out.